Welcome back to the table talk where we are having real conversations, real journeys, and real growth. I'm delighted to get this man on. I've wanted to get this man on for a long time and he's helped me tremendously. So today we have got George.
How you doing, Tom?
Hello. Hello,
Hello,
sir.
hello.
We've just had a brief chat before we've come on, by
Yeah,
the
yeah,
way, guys. Just a little bit of a catch up.
yeah.
So we're just gonna, the format of this is we've just got some questions. It's mainly about you, how your journey's been, and anything you want to say to individuals who are involved in sport, in coaching, they could be involved in their career, they could be neurodivergent. It's just about your take on everything and how you can help them.
Nice
So
one.
we're gonna
I'll do my
start at
best.
the we're gonna start at the start. So the beginning. So any person who meets you for the first time, who is George and what do you do?
Here is George. I do a lot of things, Tom. I do a lot of things. But yeah, so essentially, I'm the founder of the Mind Your ADHD Academy. I think that's a good starting point. So my company, the academy I founded, essentially helps people that have ADHD to unlock what's really in them, unlock their potential, unlock their highest version of themselves, almost like the 2.0 of themselves. A lot of the time, people are sort of stuck in like dead end roads or know what they need to do, but just not doing it, which is even worse. And we essentially help people just to kind of believe in themselves more, to grow more, to see opportunities, a bit like the table talk, things like that. So that's essentially what I do. Obviously, but most importantly, alongside that, I'm a father, I'm a husband, I have two children, I have a son and a daughter, and yeah, just very, very blessed. Born and bred in England, grew up in London, and now I live in.
What part of London did you grow up in?
So I grew up in North London. It was a place called Edmonton. So my growing up was a little bit crazy. I grew up in one of the roughest neighborhoods in London, which was a place called Edmonton. I think it had statistically the most stabbings on the trot for like I think it was like 5 consecutive years. So
Wow.
yeah, that's kind of where I grew up. Went to school there, did everything there. And then when I kind of finished school, I did an apprenticeship to be an electrician. And then from there, Tom, I went on my journey at sort of 15, 16. I started working. My qualifications weren't very good in school, I'll be honest with you. Having ADHD in a neurotypical environment, which is a school, and trying to prosper, I'm sure you can maybe relate to a degree, is very
Uh,
hard, very
yeah.
hard. We're, we're very different in it. We're very different compared
Yeah.
to, say, the other individuals that
Well,
are sitting there trying to tell someone maybe she to focus for 1 hour is like trying to tell a man with erectile dysfunction to get it up. you know what I mean? I know it sounds a bit crude. I don't know what age your viewers are, but yeah. So that's that, Tom. And then from sort of 16, did my apprenticeship, but I was very unfulfilled, very empty inside, and I was always trying to get a sense of like validation from the world. Do you know what I mean? Always trying to
definitely.
push for the next thing, trying to be seen, trying to be heard. I used to laugh when people laughed because I thought that that's what people did. I didn't know any different. It's just used to try and mold myself into the world as best as I could. But I tried many things. I was a TV presenter, I was an actor, I was this, I was that, I was a lecturer, I was a teacher. I've done a lot of different experiences. I've been an investor, I've been a trader, like professionally. Um, there's a lot of things I've sort of got my hands into, but nothing really fulfilled me. And it was only until I realized that when I was going to be a father, going back a handful of years ago, where I realized I needed to make some real shifts in my life. That's when I kind of hit rock bottom. And in a weird way, it was the best thing that ever happened to me because the only way was up at that point. And that's when I went on my journey and just went all in, full throttle, and just gave it my all, basically, Tom. And yeah, and then I just, when you clear the clouds in your mind, the brain fog, you kind of see the sun. And that's when I sort of said I wanted
See
to
the
be a
light.
coach. Yeah, absolutely.
Light.
I,
It's actually leading on to this next question. So how did it lead you into ADHD and the coaching
so
part of it, really?
great question, Tom. So I realized that everything that I had tried to do, even the teaching, I realized that it was for myself. Even the teaching, I realized that it was only so I can have some sort of authority, some sort of leadership, some sort of visibility in the world. And when I realized after figuring out myself how to use ADHD as a strength, as a tool for my own self, and I stopped chasing validation, I stopped people pleasing, I protected my boundaries, I started believing I can achieve whatever I wanted to. I felt called to humble myself and to
Yeah.
help people around the world do the same thing. So I took myself off the pedestal of being a leader, authority, all these things that I was trying to seek all these years. And and I started helping people. And it's quite an interesting story, Tom, because I helped 2 or 3 people. I wasn't actually a coach at the time, officially on paper, but I helped 2 or 3 people. I was like, hey, why don't you just try this and then try that and try this and try that? And then it literally their lives changed. But at this point, I was an electrical engineer. I was just doing my thing, and this was just a bit of
So
advice.
it's just normal advice.
Yeah, just normal advice.
Yeah,
And then all of a sudden
normal.
they're coming back to me. They're like, wow, your advice like changed it for me, changed
Yeah.
the game. And they started to make more money. They started to be happier. Their relationship started to thrive. So then it got me thinking. I was like, okay, this is definitely like helping people. It's definitely something I should be doing more of. And I weighed it out. It didn't take me long to make the decision, but I was like, I'm either gonna sit in a dead end job as an electrical engineer, live in a job that doesn't really serve people as much as I want it to serve and doesn't fulfill me as much as it should, or I'm gonna live my passion, which is helping the world. So then I set myself a goal to help 1 million people. And then I quit my electrical engineering job with no answer to the future. Just took a leap of faith in myself and a belief that I can do it and I will do it and it's going to happen regardless. And then I went all in and I became a full-time coach. And this was about maybe roughly, oh God, I want to say roughly around a couple of years ago, give or take
Yeah.
a month or
Yeah.
two. Um, and yeah, and then I just went all in, Tom. And then 6 months into it, we became global within the first month. So we had clients from all around the world in the first month. And then within 6 months, I didn't know it at the time, but we became the only worldwide recognized and accredited academy by the IPHM that does what it does and actually can have this transformation in people with ADHD's lives. And it became such a blessing. And then but at the time, at the very beginning, when I told you sort of going back a little bit, I'm digressing. When I helped the 2 or 3 people, it wasn't even ADHD. At that time, it was just, I'm just kind of helping people. I was just giving
Yeah.
people advice. I was like, hey, why don't you just try this or try that? And then I realized something, Tom. I realized that if I can help someone with ADHD, i.e., myself, you can help anyone. It's like the ADHD man's the hardest person to help. You can help them, anyone else you can help. So I kind of went down that road. And I ended up about 3 to 6 months into it. I then specialized in helping people with ADHD because I felt that I wanted to be able to relate to people the most. And the struggles that I could relate to the most was genuinely having an ADHD brain and the struggles that come with that. And that's when I was just like, do you know what? I'm going to just help people with ADHD. And then I went even more specialist, which is helping not just people with ADHD, but helping the ADHD business owner. Because again, I'm trying to relate to people as much as physically possible. So yes, I can help people all around the world. I can help anyone. And I do help people, but my core focus are ADHD people that are business owners.
Amazing. You've kind of touched upon the third question, which was like specific moment, and then it blends really nicely into your own relationship with ADHD. But I want to ask a question for you, just you specifically. What strengths does ADHD give you? Not thinking about anyone else.
Love
What
that.
does it give? Yeah, what does it give you the ability? I know that you help me, you help others, but let's focus this on you. What do you notice that gives you that, like I said, that strength? For me personally, like I've said, I think it's people skills. I think naturally when you are neurodivergent, you can, especially having ADHD, you can have really good emotional intelligence. So that is the question: is what makes you you with your ADHD?
Yeah, he's sort of just to I understand the question clearly. He's sort of saying, what strengths do I feel like I have specifically because of my ADHD? Is that what you mean?
It can be both. It can be however you want to interpret it.
So, okay, I love that. I love that. Leave it to my imagination. Um, there, there's 2 parts to this. Then I'll give you kind of both sides of this. So, I feel like having ADHD since I was a child growing up, I feel like the skill that ADHD specifically has given me is giving me the ability to be 6 to 10 steps ahead of everything around me. In other words, like I could foresee things that people are not even on step one looking at the next thing. I'm like 5 steps forward, looking at what's going to happen 5 steps later. I'll give you an example. Like I was at the beach with I was just coming back from Greece, Tom, about 2 weeks ago, as you know, and I was at the beach with my family, and my son was sleeping on the sun chair. And this is a true story. It's quite funny. I was sitting there, I was looking at the sun chair, like the sunbed at the beach, and my wife's like sitting there sleeping, like she's chilling, he's sleeping. I'm looking, I'm like, Tan. I said, it looks like he's going to fall though. She's like, no, he's in the middle of something, some bed, he's not moving. I was like, yeah, but if you look at it, I was like, the bed is a little bit slightly off angle. He normally turns to the right. So if he does do those two things, he's going to fall over and hit his head and fall over. And I was watching it, and ironically, about 1 minute later, he turned to the right, fell over because I was watching him. I caught him, so he didn't actually hit the floor. And it's just having those little bits of awareness, like that's one thing I'd say. Another thing I'd say is a big skill that I've developed is being able to read the character. And this
Yeah.
is a skill that I developed even before I was a coach, I'd say, being able to talk to you for 2 minutes and know a lot about you in the first 2 to 3 minutes of a conversation. I think that's a really good skill that people with ADHD in general have. It's a superpower, being able to read the room very quickly. And it's funny because they say when you're ADHD, you can't really read the room properly. No, you can't read the room, but you can read people.
Yeah,
So
definitely.
you can read people. You might not be able to read what's going on in the environment, but you can read the person. And this is what I always say, being able to read the room, being able to solve a problem, put a problem in front of me, Tom, it's going to get solved. Put a game in front of me, put a challenge in front of me, it's getting dealt with, it's getting won. Those are the things I think ADHD has given me. Now, on the flip side, the other side to this question is, what skills have I developed being someone that is and now an ADHD coach and has helped people, over 100 people around the world? I think the biggest thing that I've learned in my own ability is the ability that two things. The first one, I'm trying to pick the top two here, Tom. The first one is the ability to know that if you're having a bad moment, you're not having a bad life. The amount of people that sometimes have a blip, something just doesn't go to plan, and then in their world, the world's going to end. They have a
I've
bad
been
fun.
there. I've been there.
Yeah, and hey, listen, you're not alone, Tom, and I'm glad that you brought it up that you've been there too, because vulnerability is really important. Especially as two men having a conversation today. Speaking up is
Absolutely,
really
yeah.
important. We are, especially with ADHD, we have skills to mask our emotions and to just live in autopilot survival mode, and that's not good. You need to be able to speak up. So
Just to interrupt, one thing that, and then we can lead on to the next question about your mind, your ADHD. But the one thing that you've taught me and that's stuck with me, and it could be especially for anyone who is neurodivergent, whether it's ADHD, autistic, etc., it's the 6-9 theory.
yeah, that's
Yeah,
powerful. That's a
yeah. So
powerful.
I've had a lot of questions, especially creating my own community and creating this podcast, is just think it can apply for anyone. So just tell me in your own words what the 6-9 theory is and
Yeah, that is
delve
probably,
into it.
honestly, that is probably the most important lesson for someone to learn, especially if you feel misunderstood, you don't feel accepted, you feel rejected, or you feel a sense of you're always angry with how people are around you. If you're in those situations and you experience those emotions quite regularly, 6-9 theory is very important. So essentially, what is the 6-9 theory? It's an opportunity to have two people looking at each other. And say like me and you, Tom, we're looking at each other now. And let's say there was in front of me now, I got a big crayon. And on the floor, I got a big crayon. I wrote the number 6, drew the number 6 on the floor in front of me. So I'm looking at a 6, but where you're standing, from your angle, if you're directly opposite me, you see a 9. And whether I like it or not, there's nothing that could convince you that what you're looking at is a 6. And there's nothing that you could do in your power to convince me that what I'm looking at is a 9. And from our angles, just by being a slightly different angle to one another, we're going to have a slightly different experience. And this applies to many things in life. You can have two twin brothers that grow up in the exact same way, wear the same clothes, eat the same foods, go to the same school. Everything's exactly the same. And they can have completely different experiences about life. They can have different taste buds on who they're attracted to. They can have a different interest in what they want to study or what they want to learn or their career or their business. You can have two dustbin men two people that throw the dustbins in the big truck in the morning. And one guy wakes up in the morning, he's like, oh, this is disgusting. It stinks. I'm embarrassed to tell people. It's just a horrible job. There's flies everywhere. Why didn't I get a better education and just learn more and stop doing this dirty job? And you can have the other guy doing the same job as him, turn around and say, oh, what a beautiful day. I'm so blessed. I get to wake up every morning and see the sunrise. I get to wake up every morning and see the sunrise. I get to wake up every morning and see the birds, hear the birds chirping. I get to help people by clearing out their mess so they can just, they're busy people getting off their chest. I don't have a manager looking over my shoulder. I get paid really well. And by 2 p.m., I'm done. I've got the whole day ahead of me. And people don't finish work till 6, 7 normally. What a beautiful job. Like this is, I'm so blessed. Same job, different perspectives. And this is how the 6-9 theory works. Same situation, different perspective. And when you develop the skill, Tom, of being able to pause time. So in other words, say me and you are having an argument, hypothetically speaking, although I can never argue with you, Tom, you're too nice of a person. But let's just think me and you having an argument. And I was to say, right, pause the moment. Just pause time, walk around, stand in your shoes, and be in your position for 5-10 minutes. Naturally, if you do that properly, you're going to start to feel a sense of empathy.
Yes. Yeah.
You're going to start to feel a sense of empathy. When you feel a sense of empathy, what that's going to do for you is it's going to make you like the person more, even if you have conversation with that person. It's going to make you actually see the other person's perspective. You know what I mean? For example, there was a story about a man that would abuse his kids, like beat them up. He was quite aggressive. He would hit his kids, and he would be really abusive. And in bed with his wife or the kids' mums, he would be very like rough and he was very forceful. And everyone would be like, this guy's a narcissistic like animal beast, But then if you take that guy, you put that kid in the same scenario, you look at him backwards, and you saw and you looked at another child, and you see a child being abused, and you see a child being abused, and you see a child seeing this every single day. That child was that adult.
Yeah.
That you are calling narcissistic. So in other words, that aggressive, abusive dad was actually once the person that was being abused, and he never knew anything different. And it's like sometimes, even if it's not right, and I'm not condoning violence, not condoning abuse, of course not. But what I'm trying to say is that sometimes, if you just look at the other perspective, you can understand why something's happening from their side. And 9 times out of 10, it's not on purpose. It's not malicious. It's not intentional. No one wakes up in the morning and intentionally says, "I just want to ruin someone's life," unless there's a mental illness. To be honest, because humans are not wired that way inherently.
Definitely not.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean that's real for anyone that listening. That's so helpful because I can even relate to what I saw on Instagram of all things. Like I feel every adult has an inner child in them. I think that's a good way to view the 6-9 theory as well. Is that inside of them there is that inner child who wants to be loved, and it's just about understanding them from their own perspective. So I think
Yeah.
that is good. So we're at the end of that section. We're going on to your Mind Your ADHD Academy. So we're going to talk about it. I'm going to double up the questions because I thought it'd be cheeky. Don't mind, don't mind if we go off tangent as well. It doesn't mind. It needs to flow naturally.
I feel like we have
Um,
gone off tangent a few times,
we
haven't we?
have, yeah. I mean, we've gone off tangent a little bit. So talk to me about your Mind Your ADHD Academy and the vision behind creating it. Talk to me about that.
No, cheers. So, yeah, okay. So the Mind Your ADHD Academy, I want to start. Can I just start by telling you about how the name came about? Because it was
Do
quite
it.
interesting.
Do it.
So the name Mind Your ADHD. So I spent a long time trying to figure out a name, and being impulsive, I would think of a name, get so excited, I would pay £200, get it trademarked, and then realize that 25 days later, it's not the name I wanted, you know. And about 3, 4 of those later, I tried all these different ideas, different names, and I just couldn't think of a name. And I wanted to think of something that I think could be long term, that could be easy to remember, that could be abbreviated. Because Mind Your ADHD is MYA. I call it the MYA, you know? So like I wanted something that could like be abbreviated as well in the future, this and that. And I'm not exaggerating, Tom, I spent about 2 months trying to think about his name. And eventually I just got so angry. I was in my sleep and I was sleeping, I almost dreaming about this name. And I was arguing with myself in my own head, like trying to think, why can't you just come up with a
Yeah,
bloody
push
name?
and pull.
Yeah, push and pull, push and pull, push and pull. And then eventually I a part of me, like my alter ego goes, hey, listen, just mind your business, mind your own business. And then as a part of me goes, hey, mind your own ADHD. And I woke up and I was like, mind your own ADHD, mind your own ADHD, mind your ADHD, mind your ADHD. And I looked, it was like 2, 3 in the morning. And I went online and looked, I was like, is it available? Can I take it? And I got the domain straight away. I got it, purchased the domain, got it trademarked, done the logo in literally like a few hours and just had it. And that's kind of how the story was. So sometimes things can come to you at the time where you
Yeah,
least expect it. You know what I mean? And I actually want to bring this up actually. I know we're digressing, but I think this is a good point to digress on. Is that impulsivity is actually one of the biggest traits of ADHD, and there's always two sides to every coin. And impulsivity, although people see being an impulsive person as sometimes quite negative, but on the other side of impulsivity, Tom, is creativity. In other words, in order to be creative, you need to be impulsive. You can't be creative without being impulsive. Like anything that's ever been invented, if you look at any invention and you were to look at an interview and when the person was asked, oh, when did you invent this? When did you come up with this miraculous idea? No one ever plans to do that. It's normally like at 2 a.m. when you wake up, or like something happens, or a light bulb moment hits and you're just like, bang, that's what I want to do. And it just hits you. The idea just comes to you in that impulsive, creative moment. No one says, hey, at 9 p.m. today, Tom, I'm just going to plan to invent something that's going to change the world. Okay, at 9 p.m. I've set my alarm for it at 9 p.m. It's going to just come to me. No one does that. So it's about understanding the principles of what impulsivity and creativity means. And that's a really strong ADHD trait that I think that if you was able to use to your advantage, almost like I say impulsive correctly, I say, be impulsive, but be impulsive the right way. People with ADHD have addictions. Get addicted to the right shit and you've got no problem.
yeah,
Do you know what I mean? Like, we have problem solving skills, but solve the right problems, you're laughing. Focus your time solving problems that grow you instead of hinder you. It's like if you can learn how to flip the switch a little bit, it changes the game. So that's how the name came about, and it was a very impulsive moment. The academy in itself, the vision is, I've set myself a goal that by the time I'm dead, I want to help 1 million people. And 1 million people is not going to be achievable just helping one person, one person, one person. But for example, where I've helped you, Tom, if you now have a family and now you can be better for your family, you can give your family a better life, then I've technically, indirectly, maybe help them as well a little bit by giving them the best version of Tom.
definitely. Yeah,
And kind of moving the needle down the line, you know what I mean? So essentially the vision for me now is, well, I am the only academy in the world at the moment, to what I understand, unless something's recently come out that has a proven track record of actually creating a real shift in someone's life for ADHD. Like not just here's a couple of tools, but an actual like a real internal, permanent, subconscious shift. How you see life. I mean, even the 6-9 theory that you alluded to, you mentioned, me and you spoke about that months ago, but it's still something that's in your mind, right? There's like
definitely. Yeah,
having that change, having that thought. So I want to create a movement where people can know categorically they are better than whatever they are currently doing. Because 9 times out of 10, you're not reaching your full potential. And if you can just learn that you can take the leap of faith, jump over the cliff, and you're going to be okay. You're going to be okay. Not actually jump off a cliff. It's a metaphor. Let's be clear as a disclaimer, Tom. But you're going to be okay.
analogy.
Like the worst case is never that bad. And you just got to understand that your number one priority right now in life is to head for adventure, to be your best self. Because when you're on your last breath, you will never, ever on your last breath be regretting not doing that extra bit of paperwork for the company you used to work for, or not like spending that money on that experience that you could have had, but you decided to save it. Like, experience in life is the most important thing. So if you can just put all your time and effort into learning the skill of being able to experience life confidently with a belief in yourself that you're going to be okay. That's the number one thing that I'm trying to create, a movement like that.
Beautifully put. I'm going to blend another two questions in because I think this is the way it's going to go. It's interesting because especially the podcast that is going to come up and going to release with my friend Josh is completely different to this one. And I think the one with me and then obviously Barry at the start. So I think that's what I wanted, the variety and the difference in sort of where it wanted to head. But everything is everything is all good. So, your academy now. And how has it evolved? How has it changed? And then off the back of that, how do you think people can understand more about ADHD through your community and through your clients, really?
So great question. Well, the through the clients part, I'm sure that's a bit that maybe you can allude to or you can help with. But but talking about the academy in itself. So right now we have an academy, which is what I call a one-stop shop because we have mindset and business in it together. So in other words, you walk into the academy. What we're hoping to help someone with is an opportunity to transform the way that they see life, the way that they see ADHD. Most people have grown up and spent their entire lives seeing ADHD as something that's crippled them. But if you can see it as the thing that's going to change your entire life for the better, that's going to give you opportunities that if you never had it, you would never be able to experience. You want people to see ADHD as a blessing, as a gift, as a superpower, as an advantage, as an unfair advantage in the life that they're living or in their business or their career, whatever that might be. So that's the first thing. In the academy, we do something that no one really does, Tom. And this is why we get the results that we get. And this is why we only work with up to 40 people at any time. We keep it very small, very intimate. And I could have so many people in my academy, but I choose not to because I want it to be intimate. I want to be able to provide a quality of service that is not matched by anyone else. And most importantly, I want people to come in and know that they've invested into their time, they invested their time and money, whatever it is, but they've come out and they've got what they've put their money down for. They've got the value. Do you know what I mean? So what we do is we offer Monday to Sunday support. Even the most minimum tier is still Monday to Sunday support, community support, Monday to Sunday support, private support, this support, that support. We offer every level of support you could possibly think of to get the job done. Accountability is none matched. We need to make sure that when someone walks in, at least if they are willing to put in 100%, we will move the mountain to get them where they need to be. But another thing I'd say as well is that not everyone wants to change. That's another point, Tom. You know, some people with ADHD and some people without ADHD, humans in general, are very much set in their own ways. And sometimes they could be comfortable in the pain that they're in. Does that make sense? And sometimes
Definitely.
the pain is, and the scariest place for someone to be, and this is a piece of advice I'll give to anyone who's viewing this right now, the scariest place to be in your life is not when you're at the bottom. That's actually the best place to be sometimes. Because when you're at the bottom, the only way is up. The worst place to be in your life, Tom, is the comfort zone. It's a place in your life where you're actually comfortable, like almost like the pain isn't unbearable, if that makes sense. In other words, like you want to make more money, but if you don't, you're still going to be able to kind of cover your cost to live the next month. In other words, like you want to get healthier, but you know, if you don't get healthier this month, you know that age is on your side, you know, you can probably go another 1 or 2 months. It's having that like not urgency. It's having it like where it's not urgent. And because it's not urgent, it allows someone to not feel the urgency to change. But real change can only come in as an urgency. In other words, the pain is unbearable or the desire is in arm's reach and extremely desirable. Does that make sense?
Does. I'm totally with you.
Yeah.
That's quite simply to put it, if you don't like something, change it.
Yeah. But you
That's
need the what you don't like needs to be unbearable. And going back to my academy, one of the things that we have a skill in doing, we have a system that we use. And the system that we use, it creates the unbearable pain or the extreme desire. Because what we do is we get you to a place where if you come in and say like you're not fully committed to the change, but you want to do some change, we'll get you to a place where you can either feel the consequence of nothing changing to make it so unbearable that change becomes a must. Like a right now, I'm not going to wait another second, another minute, another hour. I'm going to do it right now. Or we can make the desire extremely desirable. For example, there was a lady that in my academy now that she never realized it at the time. She wanted to change. She was struggling with her like doubt, self-doubt, not feeling good enough. And then all of a sudden, we unlocked something in her and it just came to her. We didn't know it, it just came to her. But we got her to a place where she was so deep in her subconscious mind that she found that her biggest passion has always been to help people. And then she decided in that moment, I now want to be a coach. I now need to be a coach and I want to help this person to solve this problem. And it came to her like in a creative, impulsive light bulb moment, Tom. And literally, a second that happened, what happened to her? Her work ethics jumped up. The hours that she put into her change shot up. The results came faster. So sometimes it's either the unmet desire of where you want to be or the pain that's so unbearable. You know, for example, if you got told that right now, if you got told that if you don't change today, if you don't change today, that you're not going to wake up tomorrow morning, you'd probably start thinking about how am I going to change?
Yeah. Yeah. It's a non-negotiable then, isn't it?
Non-negotiable,
Yeah.
yeah.
It is
It's
a big
only it only
deal.
doesn't happen when you negotiate with yourself. And and there shouldn't be a negotiation. For example, have you ever been in a position where you've gone to an exhibition or you've gone to like an event, a show, a concert, Tom, a theater, and you're a bit thirsty, or maybe you fancy like some food and you're hungry. How expensive are those little shitty hot dogs or the little bottles of water that are this big that you're paying like £5, £6 for?
So expensive.
They can charge you what they want because they don't have to negotiate with you because you can't
Yeah.
go anywhere else. You need to drink now, otherwise you're going to dehydrate. And there's no other option. So in other words, the value is determined by the location and the urgency and the non-negotiation in that moment. So if you was to kind of sit in that situation and say to yourself, okay, cool. Well, if I've got no other option, no plan B, and this has to be done, then it has to be done. For example, let's just say you wanted to make more money, and there was someone watching saying, how can I make more money? I'm struggling financially. Do you know what I'll tell you to do? I'll tell you to write down all the things that you're comfortable with right now, because you want to make more money, but clearly you're paying your bills. Make it so hard for yourself to the point where your brain has to figure it out. If you're living at home with your family, fucking move out. It's going to put a financial burden on you. You got no money, invest in yourself, personal development, blow the last bit of money you got. Because I know it sounds crazy because it doesn't sound nice to hear that, but the reality, Tom, is that if you put yourself in the deep end, the human mind is designed to figure it out quick. But if you're in the toleration zone, if you're in the comfort zone, it never happens.
Yeah, I'm all for that. I think for me, for the listeners that are listening, the work you did with me, and I spoke to you quite openly about it, and I think it's not much that many people know. I've never really shared this until now. Is I think I've had such a successful life so far, but before working with you, I couldn't realize what that success was. All I ever knew was failure from, I mean, like I said, it was coming from an area of subconscious. It was either the limiting beliefs. So I think it kind of touches upon that. It's, you don't, when you actually understand success and what it is, that's when you can move forward. And like I said, since I've started working with you, I mean, and I've worked with you. I mean, I've changed my job. I've moved out. I've set up this podcast. I'm setting up my own business. So I think it's proof in the pudding to see if you channel your ADHD, this is what it can lead to. So yeah, I'm just grateful for it.
I appreciate the kind words as
Yeah,
well. And it's very nice of you to say that because, not just for me to hear that the results you're getting, gave me goosebumps, but also to show vulnerability is really important for a man to show that, you mentioned that,
definitely.
all you thought about was failure. And I know there's a lot of viewers that will relate to you, will relate to you and will be able to understand that context. Do you know what I mean? And
Yeah,
be,
I think you need a relationship with both, though, don't you? Really?
yeah, you can't be there's paradoxes, Tom. Let me teach you about the paradox, right? Because this is another big thing that I think listeners need to hear and something that we teach in the academy. That people live in paradoxes half the time. In other words, I want to be successful, but I don't want to fail. Can't have both. In order to succeed, you have to fail. In other words, I want to be happy, but I don't want to be sad. I want to feel true love, but I don't want to get my heart broken. You see, all of these things are paradoxes. I want to be grateful. I want to be grateful, but I still want X, Y, and Z. I want to be grateful, but I don't want to lose this. All of these things are paradoxes. And what this does, Tom, is it creates a, a, a world where you can't win either way because your brain is basically saying, I want to go left and right. If you're here and you want to go left and right at the same time, equally as powerful, the forces are equal. Where are you going? You ain't going anywhere. You need to be willing, if you want to find true love, Tom, and marry someone and live a life where your heart is warm, you need to be willing to have your heart broken. You need to be willing to lose, to have love lost. If you want to be successful, you need to be willing to have failed more than you've been successful. Thomas Edison puts this perfectly. I think it's is it 10,000 ways or 1,000 ways where he says, because I haven't failed 1,000 times, he goes, I've just found 1,000 ways that the light bulb won't work. I think it's 1,000 or 10,000. I don't quote me this. So maybe look up. We can
Either
look up.
or.
They're all, but you get the point, right? The point is the principle's still the same. So it's just a case of knowing that you can't have one without the other. So for yourself, Tom, you have to have a great relationship, and you've alluded to that perfectly. You're absolutely 100% spot on. In order to be happy and successful, in order to love, you need to be willing to fail. You need to be willing to have your heart broken. So in other words, these are not enemies of yours. These are friends of yours. These are your friends. These are parts of you that needed to be with you to get you to where you're going.
Totally.
Yeah.
I think this is a good place to end it for part one of this. I think it's definitely going to give the listeners that ability to come back for part two.
Absolutely.
But in part two, we're going to discuss about your coaching more, your impact, and then we're going to touch on your advice and your inspiration for it. So thank you for everyone who's listening, and please subscribe to the Instagram, which is TT Performance Club now, TT Performance Club, where you can find the table talk and other things. So yeah, stick around and hope you listen for part two.
Nice one, Tom. It's been great speaking to you. And if you want, what you could do is, if you wanted to create like some sort of code from you, and anyone that comes through you, Tom, I'm more than happy to give them sort of 10% off any of our investments within the academy for people that are genuinely serious
Amazing.
about getting the support that they need. Okay. So anyone that
Amazing.
comes to you, Tom, more than happy to honor that because you're a great guy and you're doing great things. And this is a podcast that I've always believed from day one that is going to do extremely well.